The Galaxy M series, the M20 especially, was somewhat of a surprise offering from Samsung. It arguably is the best value for money device Samsung's ever released. The Redmi Note 7 on the other hand seems to be the best bang for your buck Redmi in a while. So how do these two stack up? What are the differences and which is the better phone? Well, let's find out in today's video. Hey guys, Ash here from foray Tech and let's get started. If you do end up liking this video, please don't forget to turn on notifications by hitting that bell icon. Now this might be a first full comparison video of the Redmi Note 7 with another phone, but we aren't stopping here, so if you have any specific requests, speed tests, comparisons, camera comparisons, whatever it is, let us know in the comments below and I will try to make it happen. Let's now get started by getting the obvious ones out of the way. We have an entirely plastic build on the Galaxy M20, coming up against the glass sandwich design of the Redmi Note 7. The M20 feels good in hand with well-rounded corners, and there's no denying that there's some quality polycarbonate that's been used here by Samsung. But when it comes to looks, the gradient design to the back along with the premium glass build means that the Note 7 has a big advantage going into this round. If aesthetics weren't enough, the Note 7 looks to up the durability levels as well, with Corning's Gorilla Glass 5 being present both to the front and back. Now all those premium materials do add to the heft of the device, but Xiaomi has managed to keep the weight under control with a polycarbonate shell. In fact, the M20 and the Note 7 weigh in the same at around 185 grams. What's surprising then is how much thicker the M20 is when compared to the Note 7, although it has to be noted that the Note 7 does have a pretty pronounced camera bump. That's thanks in large to the 48 megapixel sensor there. We'll get to the cameras in a bit, but now for build and design, this round goes to the Redmi. Next up, we have the screen. Now the M20 has a TFT display, but it comes without the drawbacks of a TFT panel. The colors are good, the details look crispy. Heck, side by side with the IPS panel on the Note 7, the quality is quite similar. Of course, the fact that both have the same teardrop, or as Samsung calls it, Infinity V-style notch, along with similarly sized 6.3-inch Full HD Plus screens. When it comes to media consumption, they're both good. There's thin bezels, tiny notches. Overall, it's an immersive movie watching experience. As far as speakers go, the bottom firing ones on both are perfectly adequate. Of course, both phones do come with a headphone jack and the sound output through it is pretty good. But what really sets these two apart when it comes to the media experience, it isn't really the hardware but the software underneath. The Note 7 comes with only Widevine L3 certification, meaning streaming services like Netflix and Amazon Prime will not play back HD content on the phone. The M20 on the other hand does not have such restriction. It has Widevine L1 support right out of the box. So one thing to keep in mind here is that we are testing out the Chinese variant of the Note 7, so the software situation might change when it comes to the Indian launch. Basically, this means that MIUI on the Note 7 isn't really polished right now, but that hasn't stopped it from tearing up benchmarks. Of course, when it comes to numbers, the Snapdragon 660 inside the Note 7 is more powerful than the Exynos 7904 Octa on the Samsung phone, but you'd be hard pressed to notice a difference with regards to day-to-day usage. A revamped Samsung Experience UI combined with this new octa-core chip means we have a pretty smooth experience when opening up apps and even jumping between them. So the RAM management is good. The only place where we did see some drop frames was while scrolling through the multitasking menu. Onto the MIUI 10 side of things, we had smooth performance throughout, but then the camera viewfinder sometimes got really choppy. Reminded me of the good old Moto G4 Plus days. Those though are bugs that we often find in Chinese builds of MIUI, so by the time they hit Indian shores, most of these bugs should be corrected. The software usually gets a lot more stable and a lot more ad-filled by the time it gets to India. So when it comes to software, I'm gonna have to go with Samsung here, mostly because of the ad situation. Anyway, enough about the software, let's get back to the specs for a minute. On the memory front, we have 3 or 4 gigs of RAM along with 32 or 64 gigs of internal storage for the Galaxy M20. The Note 7 on the other hand comes in 3 variants, 332, 464 and 664 RAM storage. So thus far the M20 has kept up quite well with the Note 7, but gaming is where you really get to see the 660 flex its muscles. The Adreno 512 on the Note 7 has a clear edge over the Mali G71 MP2, especially when it comes to intense titles like PUBG or even Asphalt 9. In fact, something we had noticed before has been with the M20 sometimes, especially while riding vehicles on PUBG, a few frames do get dropped here and there. It's not a deal breaker, but it is noticeable. No such hiccups with the Redmi Note 7. So when it comes to performance, it's the Redmi Note 7 all the way. But when it comes to battery life, the tables do turn again. We have a 5000 mAh battery on the M20, a whole 25% larger when compared to the 4000 mAh battery on the Note 7. Remember how I said the M20 is thicker? Well, here's why. The Note 7 though has a ace up its sleeve. It comes with Quick Charge 4 capabilities, which should be faster than the 15-watt charge that the Samsung Galaxy M20 has. Should be, because we weren't really able to find a Qualcomm certified QC4 charger here in India to test it out for ourselves. So if you guys know of one, do drop a link in the comments. We'll try to get our hands on it and do a test. Do note that the Redmi Note 7 only has a 10-watt charger in the box, so battery, it's the M20. Now when it comes to sundries, the Redmi Note 7 has an IR blaster, whereas the M20 has dedicated support for microSD. But it's not really a tie, because I'm still gonna give this to the Note 7 because the M20 does have some weird quirks. Like for example, it uses the selfie camera for auto brightness, meaning it's not as responsive. The fingerprint scanner to the back is also a little slower than the one on the Note 7. Now these are things you're only gonna notice when you compare the phones side by side, but still it is a difference, so a win's a win. The Note 7 gets this one. Finally, let's move into cameras. The Note 7, as all of you probably know by now, has a 48 megapixel primary camera that's paired with a 5 megapixel depth sensor, while the M20 gets a 13 megapixel primary camera with a 5 megapixel ultra wide secondary shooter. Under broad daylight, both these phones do well. If you are someone who likes vibrant punchy colors, you'd really like the shots taken by the M20. The Note 7 though punches right back with more natural colors and better dynamic range. Now moving on to a few 48 megapixel shots, there is very little difference in detail levels. The M20 has a secret weapon. Like the 48 megapixel mode on the Note 7, we have an ultra wide 5 megapixel camera here from Samsung. Yes, the images aren't as detailed as those captured by the 13 megapixel primary, but it makes up for all that with just how much it fits into the frame. Just look at how vibrant this image looks with all these flowers now added to the frame. Then we turn on the night mode. The pictures are much brighter and we have a lot more detail on the Redmi. Just look at the badge of this red tractor, or just how defined the shadows are on the edges of this wall. Night mode makes a huge difference, not just in brightness of the image but the overall clarity as well, like the license plate of this car. On the M20 it looks muddy, crisp and clear on the Note 7. As far as videos go, we've got 1080p 30 FPS from both these phones. The Note 7 produces more crisper and stabler footage thanks to EIS. M20 does fairly well here as well, decent levels and detail across both devices. The Note 7 can also ramp up to 1080p 60 FPS through the stock app, and with Gcam we can even go up to 4K 30 FPS video recording. So yeah, the fact that we have camera to API out of the box is another feather in the Note 7's cap. What about the M20? Well, it's got limited support for camera to API, and that combined with the Exynos processor means that chances of getting a working Gcam port for this one is quite slim. Moving on to selfies, we've got a 13 megapixel camera on the Note 7 that does take more detailed and better looking shots than the 8 megapixel one on the M20. Coming to portraits, the edge detection is acceptable on both phones, although the Note 7 again does better at times. Not just with selfie portraits but even with rear camera portraits. So cameras, I'm gonna have to give this to the Note 7, although the M20 did put up a good fight. So the end, as always, it comes down to the pricing. We have the M20 starting at 11,000 rupees and the Redmi Note 7 starts at the same price in China. So if prices are equal, the Note 7 does have an edge. It comes with a better build, more impressive processor, and has the edge with regards to optics too. The Redmi Note 6 Pro though is currently selling in India for 13,000 rupees after price cuts, so the Redmi Note 7 might just come in a little higher. There is a chance Redmi might bring it in at 14,000 rupees or more. If that's the case, then the Galaxy M20 makes a good case for itself. It is a decent offering that has a much cleaner interface, better battery life, and even an ultra-wide camera. If the prices are close, the M20 might still be a viable offering to those wanting a Samsung phone in the segment. That said, the sheer raw power and performance that the Note 7 brings to the table cannot be argued with, and if you are just looking at which phone is better, then the Note 7 gets a clean win here. So what do you think? Given a choice between these two phones, which one would you choose? let us know in the comments below with the hashtag Samsung or hashtag Redmi. So I guess that's it. Like or dislike based on, well, if you liked or disliked the video. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Please hit that bell icon if you've already subscribed. I guess that's it. Thanks a lot for watching. Till next time, my name's Ash. You've been watching C4 Retech and I'm signing off for now. You guys have a great day. Bye bye.